Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to N5D Radio's Cosmic Awakening Show, where we are serving this galaxy and beyond. My name is Michelle Walling, and I'll be your host for the next few hours. You can find out more about me on my website, michellewalling.com, and you can also check out all of my articles and all of the Cosmic Awakening Show episodes on CosmicStarseeds.com. Well, I'm having technical difficulties here with Blog Talk Radio. I'm not able to take any callers right now, which means that my co-host, Larry Locken, has not joined me yet. And also my wonderful guest, Lance White, tonight probably is having difficulties getting through as well. So I'm just going to go on with the show, and hopefully Blog Talk will allow them to call in. I'd like to give a very special thanks to our sponsor, Greg Prescott, our radio show host at N5D Radio that makes this show possible. Greg is also the webmaster. He's a master as well for N5D.com, the world's hottest esoteric, metaphysical, and spiritual database on the Internet with almost 900,000 visitors each month. N5D.com is ranked in the top 25,000 websites in the world. Greg's other websites are BodyMindSoulSpirit.com and HolisticCancerResearch.com. You can check out my new radio show on most Sundays. It's called BMSS Radio, which stands for Body, Mind, Soul, Spirit Radio, as well as other great N5D radio shows by Helene Lipson and C.J. Miller, by going to the N5D.com website, and you look up at the top right-hand corner, and there's a radio square that says N5D Radio. You just click on that, and it'll take you to the N5D Radio page. I'd like to give a special shout-out to our Facebook friends, Facebook groups, and the Cosmic family listening tonight. I am a part of a fast-growing group headed up by my Facebook friend, Jamie Kroom. It's an open group called Everything is Metaphysical, and he describes his group like this. The sole purpose for the existence of this group is to awaken, connect, teach, and share information amongst like-minded individuals like yourselves. If I add you to the group, or you found this group, then take it as part of your destiny. Let me be the first to welcome you home and assist in awakening you to your true self. So I thought that was pretty cool, and I joined it. And it's people like Jamie, my co-host Larry, our radio host, Greg, and myself, and probably all of you out there listening, that provide a place for all of us to meet and share information that will help to keep us moving forward. So, Larry, I see you're in the chat room, and I suppose you can be my co-host from the chat room. I'd really like to get our guest on tonight, Lance White. However, we're unable to connect with him because we're not able to take calls. I'm just going to take a second and see if I can find Lance by Skype. Now, Lance was going to call in, but if I can find him by Skype, perhaps we can connect that way. And I'm adding you to contacts right now, Lance. And if you can accept that and do Skype, then we'll try that way. So I had hoped that this week's topic would kick off a series about the Archons and the false light matrix. hopefully we'll be bringing on our special guest tonight, Lance White. And I think this would be a great opportunity, if we can get the calls going, to ask any questions that you have on this topic in the second half of our show. Phone number is supposed to be area code 646-716-8890, and you press 1 to get into the question queue. Well, I don't know about all you guys out there, but I feel like I have really found the truth of what's happening on a higher level on this planet. We have put out a lot of articles on N5D lately about the false light matrix, the Archons, and the reincarnation cycle. And every time that I come across something that really resonates with me and strikes me as the truth, it just seems to bring about more questions. This morning, I wrote an article called 6 Powerful Self-Healing Techniques. And in case you didn't know, N5D publishes a new article every day. And this one will be published late tomorrow night. And as a sneak preview, though, for Saturday's article, Greg always posts articles the night before around 10 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm going to read that article for you in just a few minutes as I wait for Blog Talk to be able to allow me to have some callers. I'm just going to check on Skype for a second and see if Lance White has received my request for Skype, and not yet. Okay. In my article, I discuss 6 self-healing techniques that you can find on Cameron Day's website. Now, these techniques are a 6-step process outlined with a short YouTube video for each one on his website. And they'll help you to clear out negative energies and to bring in the light. Cameron Day has an article that we posted on N5D called Why I Am No Longer a Light Worker. And it sounds like a really silly title. It's not silly. It's definitely a play on words in a way, because he's talking about the false light. He's talking about the New Age doctrinization, I'll get that word out here, about how the false light would be the archonic beings that are controlling our planet, that are basically posing as the light. And it's very important that we discuss things like this, and that is what the topic of our show is tonight. And I know that our guest, Lance White, has actually interviewed Cameron, and he's interviewed a lot of different people regarding several different metaphysical topics. But most of all, I wanted to talk to him tonight about his opinion of the certain topics that I had. And if I can't get him on the show, I'll just have to talk the whole night, and you guys will just have to listen to my voice for a while. So at least I have y'all with me tonight. And hello to everybody in the chat room. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Lance White. He has not only interviewed Cameron Day on his wonderful radio show, A Fireside Chat, which can be found on the BBS radio station 1 on Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific, but he's also interviewed many more wonderful people on the subject of Archons and false light, including George Kavaslis, Robert Stanley, the Lady of the Woods, Michael Tessarian, Laura Magdalene Eisenhower, Andrew Bartzis, and Kevin Annett, just to name a few. I first met Lance White in person in Mount Shasta at a conference with Andrew Bartzis and Rob Potter. I believe that was last year. I kind of get my my timelines a little mixed up, but I think that was last year. It could have been the year before. I also met some more amazing people at that conference, including Jeff Gates, Maria, Frank, and Juana Castahira, and Kelly Fluke, just to mention a few. At the time, Lance was working in the wee hours of the morning filming the Galactic Historian series with Andrew Bartzis. So he was deeply involved in concentrating on his mission. I didn't really get to speak to him much, but I finally got the pleasure of having a spiritually stimulating conversation with Lance at the N5D City of Angels Cosmic Awakening Conference in Los Angeles in January of this year. And I have to say, I felt an instant connection to Lance's energy and spiritual mindset. And it's my great pleasure to hopefully be bringing him on in a little while. And when that happens, we can pick his brain on the many years of walking the spiritual path of his own. He has been doing this a very long time. He has archives on his YouTube channel for Zany Mystic Radio that goes back all the way to 2011. It covers all kinds of metaphysical topics. And he also has that Andrew Bartzis series, The Galactic Historian. So those are some very informative and interesting interviews. If you're looking for something to watch on YouTube, you can check that out on Zany Mystic Radio. Well, what I'd like to do is I have a lot of questions and topics that I had for Lance, and I suppose I will get into a special sneak preview of my article. Because I don't want you guys to feel like that you came here and aren't going to get some really good information tonight, because I do have some good information. I really wish I could speak with my co-host Larry and bounce some ideas off of him, but I'll just have to bounce them off of you guys. So here is a sneak peek at my article, and I wrote this article because we posted Cameron Day's article, Why I'm No Longer a Light Worker, and he describes the false light, and you can find that on n5d.com. But Cameron also had a YouTube that went with that called Why I'm No Longer a Light Worker, and there was also a second YouTube called Part 2. And in the second YouTube, he goes through some very important information. And so I wanted to write an article around that and to add it on to this article so people can get a really good feel for what to do about clearing yourself, clearing your environment, and basically taking back your power. So let's get started here. In a recent N5D article, Cameron Day shared with us why he is no longer a light worker. His message was that there's a false light matrix that has control of the planet, and it is up to us to recognize it and retract from it. How do we do this? We will discuss Cameron's 6 powerful self-healing techniques and method of releasing contracts made under duress or trickery in this article. What is the false light? To recap Cameron's Lightworker article, the false light is described in the 20-minute YouTube video that I just talked about, and also in the N5D article, Why I'm No Longer a Lightworker. Basically, I have written an article as well that refers to John Lash and his definition of Archon. There are some beings that I suppose on this side of the fence that decided to go through a Stargate. And they were warned not to do that. But they did apparently around 300,000 to 400,000 years ago. And when they came back through that Stargate or that wormhole, I believe these beings hitchhiked and came back in with them. So when that happened, we were basically invaded with an infection here in our universe. These beings are from another universe. So they did not originate here like most of us did. So I'm not sure if the Stargate was eventually closed so other beings couldn't come in, or why they haven't left. It is a question that I had posed to ask Lance, but I have a feeling that it was probably that the Stargate was closed, so no other beings could come in once they realized what was happening with the takeover of the planet. So the Archons seem to be, according to John Lash, an artificial intelligence that get minions to work for them, like the reptilians and the Greys, and of course on every kind of ET race that there is, there's a good and there's a bad of that race. So because we live in a dualistic environment here, and I believe things just really got out of control with this archonic artificial intelligence. They need energy to live off of in our universe, and they need our energy. And so they are the ones that have come down to all the way down to our reality now with the Rockefellers and Rothschilds and the Vatican and the Queen. And basically the false light beings are the ones who, there are some channelers that are receiving false light beings as posers. Now these posers will have a lot of truth mixed in with their bit of disinformation meant to either confuse you or lead you down the wrong path. So basically that's a short recap of the false light. And these beings can attach themselves. They are in another dimension, and they are able to see us in this dimension because we vibrate at a slower rate. However, we can't always see them. But Robert Stanley wrote an article for N5D, and Robert Stanley and Cameron Day both call this an infection. Cameron calls them ankle biters. And let's see, Robert has posted pictures of what these things look like on the article that he wrote for N5D. And his article is called Archons, Exposing Our Covert Controllers. So that's a little brief history on the Archons and the false light. Now, let's get back to my article for a minute because it is, I do feel it like it has a lot of important information. The next section is called What is Ascension? And on Cameron Day's website, www.ascensionhelp.com, he gives the following definition of ascension. Ascension can be defined simply as raising one's frequency of thought and emotion. When limited frequencies are removed from the psyche, higher frequencies of thought can flow through a person's mind, and higher states of emotion flow through the body. As more and more people in the world raise their frequencies of thought and emotion, the rest of the planet is uplifted. When every person on the planet is thinking and acting from a place of inner clarity, love, compassion, integrity, and giving, we will be able to consider our society and ourselves ascended. And I wrote an article on, basically an ebook on how to ascend, and each article has an area to work on. And basically, a lot of my articles come down to the bottom line of raising your vibration. And basically, that's what he's saying in a different way. And one of the things that I really wanted to specify tonight is that the Earth is ascending as well. She's raising her vibration with or without us. And when we work on ourselves individually and raise our vibration, it kind of gives her the green light or go ahead to continue to raise her vibration, because she doesn't, if she did it too fast, she could just basically knock everybody off and start over. You know, she could just cleanse the planet with earthquakes and volcanoes and such. And that's not what this is supposed to be doing. You know, that's not what's supposed to happen at this time. So this is supposed to be a time of humanity taking back their power and reestablishing their connection with their Creator through their higher self. And it's you know, everybody says that, you know, Earth, we chose to come here at this time. So this is an experience that we chose to have, and we chose to hopefully wake up and remember who we are and why we're here and what we're supposed to be doing. And if I had one thing I would tell everybody, no matter what, if you want to get into the deep depths of what, you know, you need to be doing, that's fine. There's a lot of clearing that can be done, and that's something that you can read about or listen to on this article and on Cameron's YouTube part 2 of Why I'm No Longer a Light Worker. But basically, if you don't do anything else, if you just raise your vibration. I just wrote an article on N5D called 11 Guaranteed Methods to Raise Your Vibration. And these are kind of not your basic methods, because there's been many articles written on that. You can search the internet on how to raise your vibration. You know, basically laughter, anything that makes you happy, love, watching your diet, things like that. But there are some little, some specific things that I came up with to help you further raise your vibration as we begin to get into a higher vibration, higher states of consciousness. We need a little bit more challenging things to keep us going. So 6 steps to clearing and reclaiming your energy. This is the next section of my article. The major thing that is hidden from us is the fact that we are all connected to our higher selves through a cord of light. Conscious strengthening of that cord can open the doors for access to experience and wisdom our oversoul holds from all the past and future lives that it has had. So, and our higher self exists in no time, so there are, it's able to see all of the lifetimes that it's having as an experience all at the same time. So it's, your future lives are there just as well as your present life and your past life. And as you're always connected, of course, with our reptilian brain that we have in our skull, we are basically cut off from our pineal gland, and remembering that we are infinite beings connected to our Creator and are having this physical experience, and especially this particular time. You know I was. It took me 4 years ago before I really started to wake up. So I know that a lot of you joining me tonight have been on this path for a long time, and then there's a lot of you joining me tonight that have been on this path for a very short time, and you're seeking information, and that's what we're here for. Even the ones that have been on their awakening path for a while, it seems that the methods that they may have been using in the past, some of them, as we raise our consciousness and raise our vibration, some of them just aren't cutting it anymore. Or perhaps they were led down a path to the false light. You know, I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes, about the New Age, concept, and how, unfortunately, they have some concepts of just basically love and light and being passive. And that is not what we need to do right now. We need to fight for our freedom, and we'll get into that here in just a minute. So Cameron created a free 6-step help process that you can do now to empower yourself by strengthening that connection and clearing and reclaiming your energy. So I've listed these 6 steps, and the first one is called the Divine Aspect Meditation. Now, he has an excellent YouTube on his website, ascensionhelp.com, and there's a link on the article, which will be coming out tomorrow night for Saturday. The first step is a meditation that can be used to connect with your divine aspect or your higher self. Your higher self is your ultimate guide and the most powerful form of energetic and psychic protection that you can access. Even if you are an experienced meditator, this first step of the self-clearing system will help you more fully embody and live from the power and love of your divine higher dimensional aspect. So number 2 is called the Cosmic Flush. The Cosmic Flush is a simple yet powerful technique. It can be very beneficial to practice to the point where you engage in it at a moment's notice. And it can be very calming when addressing any type of challenge, either internal or external. Now, there is a video along with that, and it will behoove you to watch that video and to try to do this Cosmic Flush. And it's basically a flushing of negative energies. And if it feels good to you, then it's definitely something that you can practice. The third thing is called the energy refund, and that's where you can clear your energy field of harmful external projections. Okay, and there's a video as well for the energy refund. Number 4 is called the ego minimizer. Much has been written about the nature of the ego and the detrimental effect that it has on our state of consciousness and the world around us. When engaging this process, it is important that you do not begin to resent or hate the ego. This process is simply to help you understand and tame the ego so that it can serve you instead of controlling you. Number 5 is called reclaiming energy. And if you've practiced the techniques on the Cosmic Flush, the energy refund, and the ego minimizer, then you're ready for this step of identifying unresolved issues and emotions. Because, we keep energy stuck in our emotional body from past and future lives. As we came here, we carry them with us. And those need to be cleared so we can raise our vibration even more. Then reclaim the energy that you have put into them. It is crucial that you practice the techniques in the previous 3 steps before continuing. So I think that's 4 steps, though. The meditation, the Cosmic Flush, energy refund, ego minimizer. Number 6 is called peeling the layers. It's important to always be aware that this process of self-clearing with the goal of ascension is not something that can be rushed. There's the ego's repeated judgments of self and others, painful memories, and emotional patterns took a lifetime to build, if not more lifetimes. So they will take some time to remove, but it doesn't mean that this is something that has to go on for a very long time. It just depends on how hard you want to work at it. Now, the next section is called Cameron Renames the Lords of Karma. And I'm just going to check with the chat room here and see if anybody has any questions. Thanks, Larry, for holding down the chat room. I really wished that I could talk to you. If you're just joining us on my program tonight, having issues with Blog Talk Radio, I'm not able to take any callers. Larry has tried calling in several times, and it has said that the show hasn't started yet. Well, guess what? I'm here and the show has started, but I'm unable to take my callers, and that's how my guest, Lance White, was going to be calling in tonight. So I will get back to my article here. The corrupt control system is made up of the Lords of Karma, and we're talking about the false light as well as the extreme dark, which Cameron has renamed the Tards of Karma. This is quite appropriate for those who have created a false demiurge web of deceit and control. Now, the one thing that is used to manipulate us into the reincarnation hamster wheel is the life review. A normal life review would release layers of negative energies in a healing and loving manner. In a corrupt demiurge system, which is the matrix that we're in, anything negative or unfair that you did in the game of duality to another is used by twisting the law of karma into thinking that you need to reincarnate in order to balance out those energies. In fact, because we are cut off from our true selves every time we incarnate, and they wipe our memories, we end up repeating the same mistakes and get caught in a repeating cycle of hell. Now, see the related articles, How to Exit the Reincarnation System on N5D.com, and there's a recent one called Reincarnation, a Blessing or a Curse. Now, what I know about the reincarnation process that I was going to verify with my guest tonight, Lance White, is that about 12,005 years ago, or what they call the time of the fall of Atlantis, these beings decided to have just a very brilliant plan. And what they would do is when a human being would die from their physical body, their soul cross over to the other side, and most of the time basically feel magnetized in a dark tunnel, and at the end of that tunnel was a light. Now, this light is supposedly a false light matrix. It's like a hologram. And within that light, you feel the feeling of coming home again, because you may not remember how they wiped your memory the last time you were there. And there may be beings meeting you at the end of that light that either represent your family members or your guides or Jesus or whoever that you thought that you would meet when you crossed over. Now, I'm not so sure that your family members or Jesus or whoever, doesn't actually meet you there, but what I'm getting here is that there is definitely the false light, and they can shapeshift into anything that they want to, or perhaps it's a mental program on your mental body, which your soul, still has the ability to think once you've left. Even though you don't have a brain, you have a mental body. And it seems to me like what's happening here is these beings are giving you a life review that may or may not be accurate. If it's accurate, it's basically the fact that you were shot down here without any memory of who you are, disconnected from source, came down in a very dark and dense environment, and may have done things to other people that you may have hurt them. And so in your life review, you're seeing what you did to somebody else, and you're feeling that from their perspective. You're reviewing all these horrible things that you may have done, and they're telling you that, basically through the law of karma, that you need to rectify that, and they begin to ask you how you would like to do that. And of course, most of us jump at the opportunity to come back and balance out that karma. But what it is this huge trap, because we're going to come right back down into a dense duality and polarity environment where they're in control, and they're doing things that are creating negative vibrations simply so they can feed off of you. And the reason they want you to go right back down is so they can keep feeding. And so from what I understand from there, after you agree that you want to go back down and try this again, they stick you up into a false light grid, higher dimensional vibrating, maybe not higher dimensional, maybe so, but it's basically a higher level of heaven that is all a hologram and is not reality. Never do they give you the chance to go back to your home planet. Never do they tell you the truth about who you are and where you came from. It's always about the last lifetime that you did, and you still don't have your memory. So what we chose to do, what we kind of secretly, those of you listening to my program tonight, you knew that you were going to wake up, and you knew that you were going to come across this information and that it would resonate with you. and that this would be the last time that you incarnated on this planet, because you were going to finally wake up and raise your consciousness. We've been in a lower consciousness state for thousands of years, and there have been opportunities to bring a golden age in, but they've failed. And a golden age just means an age of raising your vibration and having consciousness and memory of who you are. And, you know, basic things like the golden rule about, you know, treat others as you'd want to be treated. So they put you in this higher heaven, so to speak, and you're hanging out in heaven, and you're relaxing, and you're doing all the things that you want to do, but then you also may take a couple of classes to figure out what, you know, I want to be an architect when I come down, so let's learn a little bit about architecture. I mean, this is a big, elaborate scheme, right? I'm really unclear as to if every single person on this planet, you know, has gone through this. Of course, not the people who this is their first time incarnating here, and perhaps not the people that are here from other planets that had higher consciousnesses in their last lifetimes as well, like shamans or seers or psychics. Those are the people who, you know, may have been able to skirt around this false light reincarnation trickster scenario. But I would say that most of the people on the planet have probably run into this at one time or another. Then you get shot back down into a body. As someone leaves the earth, you basically choose your parents and choose to come in. And so you've basically exerted your free will, but you've been tricked because you never had a conscious memory of your home planet, or that, you know, that you were being tricked in this false light reincarnation system. So over and over for the last 26,000 years, 12,500 years, you've come over and over again reincarnating into the same control system. So that's part of the false light matrix that I really wanted to tell you about tonight. And the rest, I think I basically explained the next couple of paragraphs. Let me just, we sign up for all kinds of undue hardship and pain to, to say, oh, I'm going to be able to do that. You know, we just think we can do anything on the other side before we come here. Sometimes they even inserted false past lives that never occurred in the life review to trick you into saying that you wanted to come down, trick you into having disabilities or having certain things like an eye for an eye. So you can see how ridiculous the misuse of karma is. I mean, it sounds so simple, but we had no idea because they have technology that wipes our memories before we make our final trip here. So we can learn how to call up all agreements that we made under this trickery and duress, and we can revoke them. Now, there's a video on how to do that, and that is the important video that I told you about, Why I'm No Longer a Lightworker Part 2, which will be listed here in the article, or you can just search that on YouTube. After we revoke agreements, we have to continue to peel the layers back to address all facets by transmuting them through our heart center. Now, some of these agreements are rearing their ugly heads in our lives right now. Although they may have been disguised as hardships and difficulty, we now have the ability to see them as opportunities presented to us, and as we tackle them, we are transmuting them from one or many lifetimes, and we're just taking care of it right there. Now, it's not just, according to Cameron, it's not okay just to basically get out something that somebody wrote and say, I want to revoke my prior agreements. You know, that is okay, but there are further steps that you need to do to keep clear and to heal yourself and to dissolve negative energies and to get rid of any hitchhikers that you may have. I know some of us, walk around thinking that we don't have hitchhikers on us, but there may have been a situation where we were around somebody and they drew us into a lower vibrational situation, and as soon as they did, under the manipulation of an archonic being, which could be a reptilian, a gray, an amoeba, anything in another dimension that we can't see, man, that thing jumped right on our back. And so we've always got to work on ourselves and keep ourselves clear, to keep a clear mind, and just to make sure that we're operating from service to others versus the service to self, which that in itself is kind of a paradox, because we first have to be service to self and to clear ourselves. But the real definition here of service to self that I'm talking about is the apparent lack of empathy and compassion for humanity. You know, basically the people who kill people in rituals, you know, basically the Illuminati, or the service to self people. And that's basically how you could describe them. And service to others would be, you know, you've got to help yourself to help humanity. I'll talk about that in just a second. Cameron describes the reincarnation cycle, how to call up agreements and revoke them, and much more in that second video. Now, the part of the New Age deception here I want to talk about, I want to preface, because I can't, because I don't have a guest and I don't have a co-host tonight, because I'm having some issues with Blog Talk Radio not allowing anyone to call in. So I will preface this by saying, there's one thing that's really irked me about this, about the human language, and that is that the New Age deception, a lot of things just get thrown into that New Age deception, and just like channeling or anything else, there may be a lot of truth that can actually benefit you if you can pick out the truth and use your discernment. And the rest you just simply throw out that you don't need. But categorizing everything as New Age deception is a bunch of bullshit, if you ask me. And just stop categorizing things and stop putting labels on things. It's time to, you know, to use your own discernment here, and to start feeling what sounds right to you. Until you get that discernment down, you may make some bad choices, and you've got to make sure. I mean, I've written a few articles in my early awakening stage where, you know, I really thought that maybe in an instant we might have changed our vibration and moved into a new earth before the end of 2012. Now, I didn't write any articles to that effect, but that's how I was that's kind of what I was hoping for back then. And I've written some other articles where I was kind of swayed in a certain direction, and I've realized now that that was definitely part of the false light matrix and New Age deception. So label things New Age after you've really yourself decided what is and what isn't New Age. And I'll talk about what is happening here with the New Age deception. Many people have become spiritually complacent or even spiritually lazy thanks to the New Age doctrines of, quote, everything is all love and light, unquote, or everything is as it should be. Look around the planet and see if that is what is actually reflected in our reality. I don't think so. While imagining this is so, in order to change our reality, is a very powerful tool. But pretending it is so without self-action is detrimental to humanity moving forward. Now, there are some people on the planet, don't get me wrong, that are here to stay in everything is love and light, and everything is as it should be, and to be up in the clouds, because they are high vibrational people. I've talked about this on one of our shows before. Larry has a challenged child, and I have a challenged sister. And we both know that the reason that those beings are on the planet is to help Mother Earth hold a high vibration and to make that shift for humanity. Because as we each one of us contributes to this consciousness of humanity by raising our vibration. It's like we put it into the human consciousness energy field where everyone is connected. So as we do our work as an individual, it helps all of humanity. And I'm going to use the term New Age deception here, is that there's nothing that you need to do, that you just need to, either somebody's going to come down and save us in a spaceship, which I would love for that to happen, by the way. But you have to use your discernment on that too, because that could be that could be part of this New Age deception. In other words, there could be they have technologies. If they can have a whole scenario and a whole heaven, after you cross over to go to, and basically have a whole play going on and deceiving. It's not part of the real afterlife. Then they can do holograms. They can do anything here. Up in the sky, they can make a savior come out of the sky, look like a hologram. They can make Jesus appear in your backyard. You might see Mother Mary up on a side of a building, or you can even look at a taco shell and see Jesus. Or, there's so many. This is a hologram. This is I'd like to say this is an illusion, but this is a real hologram that has an overlay on it. And this overlay is a false light matrix. And so there's a lot of things that they could do by either having a false flag event of a spaceship or many spaceships hovering over the planet and trying to say that we're under an alien invasion. Or they could have good guys come down, and they could be basically reptilians or greys posing as good guys. And they could say, okay, it's time to come with us. You're ascending now. You've been a very good little spiritual worker, and it's time to go home, or it's time to come join us here and figure out where you want to go. And if you've done your work, if you've done your clearing on yourself, if you're working on raising your vibration, and if you're staying in your heart space, you should be able to feel. If something like that were to happen, you should be able to feel what is real, what is going on. Does that feel right? Are you scared? Does your heart start racing? Or are you really connecting with someone that you've known before and you know it? So look around. Okay, I've already read that part. Many people are just hanging out waiting for the event to occur in order to get serious about doing their inner work. This is another New Age deception, as nothing will occur until we make it happen. It will take a certain percentage of humanity to push things over the edge, and this will happen one person at a time. Now, for those of you listening who really wanted to hear my host, Larry Locken, and our special guest, Lance White, tonight, I'm having Blog Talk Radio problems, and I can certainly do a rebroadcast on this show. I'm going to talk for a little bit longer, and we'll probably wrap up here after about an hour and 15 minutes. I hope you're enjoying what I'm talking about on the false light matrix. I do have a lot of interesting questions for Lance. And worst case, I could have this show on Larry's Pleiadian Express Productions, and we could it will instantly be recorded. We could have a hangout with Lance, and it'll instantly be recorded and be available. Or I could have another Cosmic Awakening show on tomorrow night or Sunday. I could do it Sunday at 2 o'clock, which is my BMSS radio show. We could certainly try again. I have no idea what's going on with it. But that's okay, because I'm really having a good time being able to speak to you tonight about something that I'm passionate about, and that's getting information out without being, I don't want to be fearful. I don't want to be a fearmonger, because there is no fear when you have the power of information. And if, this may not even resonate with you. Some of the things may not resonate with you because, honestly, I mean, they They seem pretty far out there, but that's okay because it resonates with me, and that's all that matters to me. And for you, you should really only go with what resonates with you and your heart. But we're really all just trying to get through this and to keep things moving forward for humanity. Now, as I said, it's going to take a certain percentage of humanity to push things over the edge. And this is going to happen one person at a time. You can't force anybody into this. If you're listening to the radio show, you were drawn to it because it's about the false light, and you maybe wanted some confirmation on some things that have happened to you in the past, or maybe you have seen people who are on drugs like crank or crack or cocaine or heroin, and that basically opens a hole in their aura and allows these archonic beings to come in and join them, and they can direct their thoughts and actions. They basically start driving the vehicle because the person who's doing the drugs has left the building. I've seen this with my own two eyes. I didn't know what it was other than somebody on drugs before I understood what was happening on this planet. Now, these beings can make people say things and do things that they would normally never do. And they're vicious, they're incompassionate, they're nasty, and they're basically feeding. Humanity is no longer at the top of the food chain here for a long time now. And I don't really even like saying that because I think humanity is going to very quickly be back at the top of the food chain as we have awareness about what has happened, because we are so much more powerful than these beings. It's just that we simply have been cut off through the pineal gland and the calcification and our diet and our environment and the chemicals and the GMOs and the chemtrails and, fluoride and television. And it's just an ingenious plan, but it's not going to work anymore because we've figured out the plan and we're going to move past it. And it's everybody, if you want to know what you can do, work on yourself. Work on yourself right now, and don't waste your time trying to tell people what's happening. If you get one sentence out and you start getting a glassy-eyed stare, it's probably time just to not talk about it anymore, because unfortunately it is such a compounded and interwoven and almost unbelievable plan that it's hard to tell anybody about who hasn't done their work. So the best thing that you can do is do your homework and to have a radio show and to write articles on what you found out. And don't worry about what other people say on Facebook or on the bottom of your article. If you have a website and you have a discuss comment section, if somebody's going to be rude enough to come in and say you're full of shit, or this isn't right, or you're going to go to hell, or all these horrible things that people can do. Number one, they're either paid shill, or number two, they're under archonic influence. Anybody that would treat somebody else like that by going on their own website or article and just posting basically rude things. I mean, everybody can have their opinion, but there are some out there that have just flipped out and have just gone rude. Don't worry about that though, because you're going to rise above it and you're just going to put the information out there. So as more and more people awaken because of the energy that's being sent to us from the center of the cosmos through the center of our galaxy into the center of our hearts and our brains, the more people are going to realize there's something really, really wrong going on with what we've been told. And as more things come out on the alternative media sites, especially how ridiculous things are unfolding with the same patterns of false flags, the same patterns of actors being used in these false flags, the same things. I mean, this ridiculous thing with 9/11, which we're having a show coming up on that on 9/11. You know, if a plane were to hit a steel building, the plane's going to disintegrate, not go through a building. And that was an amazing use of media, of television, of a program to instill it in our brains over. And I don't know if you remember this, but it was on the news constantly. You couldn't watch anything else on that channel for days, because they had to do it over and over again to make your brain and your mind believe that that's what happened. So we're going to be talking about that with a 9/11 expert on our show, and hopefully I'll have a co-host for that show and a guest. So back to this subject. Mother Earth is helping us to raise our vibration, and in order to change our energy signature, there's no better time than right here, right now, to shift humanity into a higher consciousness. The only thing that you have to lose by trying these methods suggested in this article is time. And we know that time is manufactured by the same system as well. So you really have nothing to lose. Now, here's an exciting thing. I will be interviewing Cameron Day with my co-host Larry Locken on N5D's Cosmic Awakening show on Thursday, September 18th of 2014. So in my article, I put a link to the show already. And if you read my article, and you please watch the videos, they're very important. And if you have any questions for Cameron, I'm sure that Blog Talk, I've never had this problem before, so I'm sure that Blog Talk will have this figured out. And you can call in and ask Cameron some questions yourself. So let me just review my notes. Let's see. Robert Stanley, who wrote the article that I talked about earlier, Exposing Our Covert Controllers, will be on our show on September 25th. So that's part of our series of the False Light. And let's move on here to, I've talked about John Lash. I've tried to reach John Lash by sending him an email. Pardon me. I did send John Lash an email asking him to wrap up our show. So we'll see if that's going to be at least another 5 weeks from now. Wrap up our series, excuse me. So let me see. I'm going to talk about archangels and other archetypes, because this was something that was really hard for me to swallow. Cameron exposes these as, the ankle biters, as posing as archangels and other archetypes, archangel archetype, as I've mentioned, such as Jesus and Mother Mary, etc. And, they can shapeshift into anything and actually appear in front of you and speak to you. They can speak to you in your head. You can hear voices. They come across as loving beings, and they have a message, usually. And people began to learn how to channel these beings by hearing these messages in their head. If someone's talking to you in your head, that would be the first clue that I would question, really, really deeply question whether you were being tricked or not, because our light beings that are there helping us, they basically have a non-interference rule, universal law rule. And so they are helping in certain ways that are unseen and unheard. Now, they can speak to you telepathically, and they can drop ideas into your head, and they can guide you, but they'll never tell you to do something. So if you're receiving someone speaking in your head to you, telling you to do something, but even if they start out by, my beloved Michelle, it is with great pleasure that I come to you today to give you this message of love and light and to let you know that the earth is raising her vibration. And they'll go on and tell you that there's nothing that you have to do. You came here at this time to be a part of this, and you will shift with the planet and leave this experience behind. Well, if you continue to let this being in your head, you probably could have a little issue there with when the time comes to shift. What you would probably need to do is to tell this being to get lost, or to ask it, are you of the light? Are you of the light? Are you of the light? Or basically do, smudge burn some sage around you and do a ritual to, you have the power to get rid of these beings. You don't have to ask for help. You just have to stand in your own sovereign power and tell them that you no longer want to talk to them. And this is the information that I'm getting from many of these authors that have been putting out information. George Kavassalis is another excellent source. He's also had his, he's been tricked before in the past, and he has said things about what was going to happen at the end of 2012 and such, which I won't get into because I really resonate with George's voice. More than his message, I just like to hear his voice. And certain people on the planet have that, and they're sending out codes just by speaking. But we all have to learn how to discern by making judgment errors and learning how that feels and learning what it felt like when you went along with something. And the main thing that we'll all learn from these kinds of situations is that we have a connection to our higher self, and that's the only truth that there is for us, really. And your higher self connection is going to confirm that, yes, things are happening with your vibration and on the planet with Mother Earth, and everything is backwards out there. And, that just shows you that we have this overlay of this false light matrix that we're existing in, and the goal is to get out of this false light matrix existence, okay? And we will do that. Robert Stanley said that your third eye vision is a way that you can see these beings with practice. There are already people who can see auras. They can see murky spots in people's auras. They can see cracks in people's auras, and those murky, muddy spots are these archonic beings or these energies that are of lower vibrational resonance that people carry around with them. And, these people are responsible for themselves. They've, hopefully will wake up and realize that some of them have to hit bottom, really, before they realize something's really wrong with their life. Unfortunately, religion is used a lot. It's like one of the number one tools besides television in getting people, tricking people into following somebody else or doing something other than realizing who they are. And even the television is amazing how it's used with symbols and sigils and our language. And it's basically programming to either tell us what to eat, what to buy, what you see people on television that are, not real. I mean, people that look like half of 1% of all the population on the planet. The rest of us are normal people, but we never feel like we're good enough. We never feel like that we are thin enough, or we're too thin, or our hair is straight. We want our hair curly. If our hair is curly, we want our hair straight. if we don't have any money, we can't go buy that outfit that we just saw. And it makes us feel lesser than we are, and it's deliberate, and to keep us from loving ourselves, basically. So, everything is against us from the time we were born, and we have a birth certificate that basically names us as a corporation. And they began siphoning energy from us from the very beginning by putting us as a corporation on the stock market and trading us. So there's so much information out there that you can find on n5d.com and on many other great websites like Waking Times, Natural News. There's just so many of them out there to, just to get information. And yes, you've got to weed through it. And no, do not get overwhelmed by all this information. Just know without fear that there is something controlling the planet that we cannot see, because they vibrate at a different frequency that some of us can't see. However, we'll get there, because there's already people doing this. There's already people that can see them. I don't know how Robert Stanley, the pictures that he posted on his N5D article, I was going to ask Lance how in the 1950s a camera could actually photograph that when most of us can't see it anyway. These things look like amoebas. And they may not be the only type of being that is, this could be very multifaceted. But I do know that these particular amoeba beings are probably the majority of what's in control of what's happening on the planet right now. So with, clearing your pineal gland, opening up your third eye, you can see, you can learn to see. Now, personally, I feel, so it's okay if you think, oh gosh, such and such can see auras, or such and such can see beings, and, be careful on that, because you don't really know if you're seeing beings, you don't really know who you're seeing there, number one. But if if your guides come to you and you recognize your guides and you know that they're not a false representation, depends on what they're telling you. Most of the time, if they're speaking telepathic to you, that's a good sign. If they're doing things like helping you out of a situation and they're not asking for anything in return, and they really have your best interest in mind, and they're not trying to tell you what to do, then that's a good sign. So it's not all bad. Life isn't all bad. It's just you've really got to understand what's happening here, because a lot of people are going to start going, what I call just going crazy, going out of their mind, literally. And we need to know whether that's an archonic being that is taking over. And if they ask for help, we've got to know how to, where to refer them, or to, if they're really in bad shape, they do need some professional help. They can get somebody to do a clearing on them. Or if they're willing, if they're a light worker, they're saying that word. If they're a light worker and they got themselves into that position, then they have some understanding, then basically, go with the clearing mechanisms, the salt baths, the smudging with the smoke out of the sage, incense, basically tell the beings to get lost. And you've got to be careful about other light workers or other Reiki people who, don't clear themselves. You've got to be careful about them laying their hands on you. So, because they can have, picked up energies from the last person they talked to. So that could be an issue, if they're passing along these beings through their hands to you when you're actually trying to get rid of them, or vice versa. They touch you and they're taking up these beings that, are from you, and then they don't clear themselves, because bless their hearts, they're just trying to help, but some of them are unaware because they don't go through the same clearing ritual that they're trying to help you clear yourself with. So these are just things to be aware of. Ultimately, none of it's going to matter. If you keep your vibration raised, you'll get through this just fine, and Mother Earth will eventually, humanity will hit a certain level. Hopefully, I don't know if it's going to, I don't think that's going to be anything like overnight, but hopefully we'll see some magnificent changes gradually occur on this planet. Who knows? We may wake up one day and everything is vibrant colors, and we've, humanity has changed their reality for those who chose to do the right thing by just being in your heart space and being a loving person and not harming others, and choosing to be a part of the new humanity, and to be teachers and leaders, and to share your experience later on with other planets. So I've talked about the light at the end of the tunnel, and you can, like I said, you can read about that on other articles on N5D. Those will be referenced in my article. Andrew Bartz has said in an N5D interview that some people don't actually have a life review. They just get kicked. They don't have a full life review. They just get kicked back down, like almost immediately, as quickly as possible, because they don't want to waste any energy stealing. So that, if that, some people don't even get a rest in between. Most people get a rest up in those higher dimensions because they think they're up there in heaven, lollygagging around, getting their little vacation in before they come back down and balance out this false karma that's been imposed upon them. And they want them all nice and rested up so they can really, really, really drain them. But I wanted to mention, I was going to talk about this with Lance. There's a few movies that just kind of describe what's happening here. One is the Matrix trilogy. And I've always wondered, I'm going to put this thought out there for those people who have watched this movie. I've always really wondered, though, do we have a body that is actually somewhere like Neo's body was, with all these cords plugged into us? And I'm really dreading that, having to go back into that body and pull that thing out of my throat and spit up all that goo and pull all of these plugs out of my bodies. I sure hope that's not really the way it is. I don't think it is, but anything is possible in this illusion that we're in, this mental false light matrix illusion that we're in, because everything around us is a hologram and is energy vibrating at a certain resonance, and we're actually seeing things through this program that's our brain, this computer that's our brain, that's deciphering what we're seeing here. So, anything's possible. But I sure hope it's not like that.
Michelle, speaking of what's possible, I see you have a guest on too right now.
Hi, Greg.
Hi, area code 530. I think you might want to answer that call because that's Lance.
It just came in about 3 minutes ago. Okay, how did you get in? That's wonderful.
I called in on my cell, and I got in touch with Lance on Facebook, and he's in the queue waiting right now.
Okay, did it just start correcting itself? That's amazing.
I don't know, but we're good right now.
Thank you.
If Larry, if you want to try calling back in, I'll hang out until he calls in if you want.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so.
Thank you.
Would you like to bring in?
Finally, I'd like to introduce my guest after an hour and 14 minutes of talking on my own. Welcome, Mr. Lance White.
Hi, welcome. I'm so sorry, Michelle, that I was late. But when I saw that the show was on at 8 o'clock, my time here, it's 6 o'clock. So I'm just sitting around, doodling on Facebook and answering emails and all that, not realizing that the show's on the it's already in process. So I apologize for that. I'm so sorry.
Well, that's okay. I couldn't bring my co-host on, Larry, because he tried calling in several times, and I just thought you were having the same problem as him. But welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. I've actually talked a lot about the false light matrix that we seem to have this software, this app overlay on top of the organic earth here in our reality. And I've been talking about the light at the end of the tunnel. I've been talking about, I wrote an article that's coming up. Basically, you have interviewed on this subject on your radio show, A Fireside Chat. You've interviewed Cameron Day. You've interviewed George Kavasilis, Robert Stanley, the Lady of the Woods, Michael Tsarian, Laura Magdalene Eisenhower, Andrew Bartzis, and Kevin Annett, to name a few. And I was just wondering, one of the first questions I had for you, well, first of all, I wanted to thank you for kicking off our series on Archons and the false light. I feel like this is a very important topic that needs to be shared. So I thank you for being a pioneer on this subject matter.
Well, thank you.
Yes. So we've posted a lot of articles on this false light matrix and the archonic beings. And what is your take on these beings, and where do you feel like that they came from?
Well, that's a good question. And, my thoughts on that changes quite a bit. But John Lamb Lash seems to think that this is a creation that came from the demiurge, and the original creation was an aberration that the Gnostics wrote about. But when I was working, I ended up editing George Kavasilis' book, Our Universal Journey, because his editor fell through, and so I offered to do it. And in my naivete, he and Cynthia said, well, we'd love to have you do it, but here's the catch, we need it in 2 weeks. So I had the raw manuscript, and it was quite an enormous task, and it was a lot of fun, but I got that material before anybody else. And I was just looking at it, and he goes into great detail about the false matrix and how it works and and who the players are. And what really changed my thinking was when I did the series of 20 video interviews at Mount Shasta about 1.5 years ago with Andrew Bartzis. And it really opened my eyes to the possibilities of, who is behind this. And according to the galactic history material, the Archons were tricked here. And the ones that are really supposed to be behind all of this are 15 multidimensional beings. And this started somewhere around 50 million or more years ago with timeline wars. And it just gets more complicated than that. I mean, it's just, you have to watch the whole series of videos. They're free online at galactichistory.com, I think. And then when I finished those 20 interviews, there were half-hour interviews with Andrew, I got home and I finally got the CDs. I've got the only sets of CDs that were made there on the spot in the room at Mount Shasta. Nobody else wanted them. I said, well, I'll take them. And so I was so fascinated by the interviews and by what came out that I started transcribing them. And so I've transcribed all 20 of them, as you know.
Yeah.
And I still don't have a full grasp of the material after working with it over and over and having to replay it. But the gist of it is that there, around 50 million years ago, there were numerous altercations with various alien races that were duking it out here, and it was going on and on and on and on. The dark would win and the light would come in, and they didn't know what was going on. They didn't know how to work with, they didn't know how to fight. This is how the story goes. And so these 15 multidimensional beings came from another galaxy, and they sensed the commotion that was going on at Earth, and they thought, this looks interesting. And so they extended themselves out as far as they could go, kind of like in the movie Dune, when the spice the spice bug kind of folds time and space. And so the story goes that they did these jumps, and they extended themselves out from their own planet until they got to our galaxy, and they just observed all of this fighting and the various alien technologies that were being used and so on and so forth. And they were way more advanced than any of the players that were here at the time. And they saw that there was an advantage to having the first race on the planet, because theoretically 2014 is the end date, is the time that we're in the period when things are supposed to be wrapped up and everybody's supposed to show their cards. So anyway, it goes on and on, but the Archons were tricked here. They were raised in consciousness to God consciousness and brought in to be like lords of time and to manage different functions at those multidimensional levels, including the incarnational grids. So that's why things seem to be so dramatically recurring, because the original system has all been overlaid with programs after programs, and they're using artificial intelligence, which is so far beyond anything that we can comprehend that it's transparent. And to me, it seems that everything has been pretty much ensnared and caught up. Consciousness has been caught, in a sense, has been trapped in bodies. And this is another aspect that goes back to Atlantis, where the Syrians and there was another race, the Anunnaki, were said to be involved too, with the tricking of the Atlanteans into a body when they didn't have one. They were non-corporeal, and so the Syrians and the Anunnaki supposedly gave them a body that they could use, knowing that it was flawed and that they would end up fighting with each other, and that they would end up ruling over them. So we could be aspects of all of these different races, including the 15 multidimensional beings. We have aspects of all of that, and we're not aware how deeply entrenched we are in the Matrix. And so George points out that the chakra system itself is part of that process, and that the pineal gland is also built in, that these are all control devices, that they can be, turned up, turned down, and, anybody that's done psychic work or, researched psychic abilities knows that you can internally manipulate your own chakras and open them wider, close them down. Well, those are portals. It's kind of like, today we see that the various three-letter agencies are building in back doors to the phones, to cars, to the television sets, where they can see us and monitor us without our knowledge. And so there's a back door in technology. Well, that's merely an imitation of what's already been done with the human body. So we're all subject to unconscious impulses and technological controls, which come from a combination of various multidimensional sources, including the Archons and the technological devices which are in the moons. Our own moon is a technological base, and the moons of Saturn, as well. So there are also devices given to the managers who run the place here. And so some of them, the military and the various dark elements that we don't hear about, the black operations, and the Area 51s and 52s and 53s and whoever knows how many more, numbers that goes to of secret bases underneath the earth, are all working to create our enslavement and to shift us into the next phase, because we're at an interval where all of these cycles have come to an end. The Mayans documented all these different cycles, which are based on a 26,000 plus year cycle of going through the various signs. Well, to me, in my understanding, anything that's cyclical is repetitious, and it's a created thing. It's a created event. So the planets and the rest of this is all a holographic projection. And these cycles that keep repeating ensnare the living entities, the consciousness, and at pivotal moments when we can escape from the wheel of life and death, we are so submerged in our bodies and belief systems that most people just go on into the next cycle. And the next cycle is always more enticing. There's a little more freedom in it, but it's just a bigger sandbox. It's not truly freedom. And we don't graduate out of here. We never get out. I mean,
right.
I don't know if never is the right word, but it's hard to escape the recurring cycles that are already established and our own unconscious behavior, because we get so dumbed down that we fail to see the value in going within and connecting with that source within. And that is what takes us out of the cycles of currents, which are these 26,000-year cycles, and then there's a 6.4 million-year cycle. We've just completed all of the 26,000-year cycles in 2011, 2012, and we're now into what's supposed to be a golden age. Well, I think that the golden age is also a setup, that we're being set up for the galactics to come in and say, here we are, we're your wonderful relatives, we've cared for you all this time, and we let the people here control you because we knew that that would be best for you, and we know more than you do, and here we are. This is a wonderful new world. You're going to have 12 strands of DNA, and we're going to open up the galaxy to you, and you'll have all this technology. So there's a technological path that's going to be both shoved down our throats by the managers here and opened up as an enticement for those souls and consciousness to enter into another cycle, which will be another set period where, individual souls have to go through it, and they're basically stuck until the end of the cycle, unless they can complete themselves and remove themselves, which is a very difficult process. George Gurdjieff did a lot of work on this, and I studied Gurdjieff in the 70s. I was in an esoteric school for about 4 or 5 years and studying consciousness and how to create a soul and escape from the wheel of life and death. And he said that what happens is we're born with the potential to become conscious, but that most people don't understand it, or they don't care, or they don't want it. And so they don't work on themselves internally, and they don't do the necessary work to become conscious. And so when death comes, they're not able to escape the gravity of the solar system, and their souls are literally harvested on the moon. Now, that could be taken as we know that there's a base on the far side of the moon, and I have seen, in my mind's eye, I have seen beings similar to gray aliens or Syrians operating an obelisk, and that obelisk is a soul catcher, which is where the Archons determine where you're going to go. They were elevated to God consciousness and then shot here from their universe, and this is how the story goes for the Galactic History series. and they incarnated and then rose. So there could be a lot of mythological stuff in the Bible that's really being written about the Archons, being angels and this and that and the other thing. Well, if they control the incarnational grids and they're working for the multidimensional beings, they're basically playing God with a process that should be a natural process that Gaia Sophia should be in charge of. And she's suppressed, and so we don't know when she's going to make her move. It could be any time. And then, so back to the Golden Age. We're told that the Hindus say that we go through all these various ages, the Iron Age, the Bronze Age, this age, and that age, and so on and so forth. We've just ended the darkest period, theoretically, the Iron Age, and that certainly seems to be true. It certainly feels right. It does seem to be the darkest age, and we do seem to be less evolved than we've ever been in any recorded history. As you go back further in time, we're more advanced, more connected to spirit, more intuitive, more psychic. So it certainly seems that way, but what if the Golden Age was a ruse, and that the reality is that we have the opportunity to choose an organic path with Gaia Sophia, the divine eon herself, and we have the opportunity to develop our inner qualities, which connect us to spirit, as shamanic studies do, shamanic practices do. And so there will be a shamanic kind of organic path, and George talks about this a lot. I've just been practicing it and seeing it more clearly as the technological path becomes clear on the planet. And there will be the technological path of people who will be sold a bill of goods about implants that will enhance your brain's ability, that will make you give you superpowers and this and that and the other thing. So once those choices filter out, there will be a group that will break away with those galactic creators who are setting up another cycle of, who knows, another 26,000, 6.4 billion year cycle. I don't know. There's also something that most people don't talk about and are not aware of. There's a breakaway civilization, and that consists of the elite and the cabal managers at the top of the pyramid, and the multidimensional beings, the Archons and so on, and the various ETs that are involved with the breakaway civilization, bringing technology to a discrete group of people who will then control humanity for them. So this is all a multidimensional process, and that's why it's so difficult to see, because you have to think multidimensionally, and you have to conceive of things that are almost unconceivable. But there's a breakaway civilization, and one of my guests, Penny Kelly, she's coming back in a week or 2 weeks. She wrote a series of books. One is called Robes, and in it these beings of light talk about the breakaway civilization, and they say that we will be unaware of it until it leaves, and we'll continue to be unaware of it until it's actually broken away. And this is what Laura Eisenhower talks about. She was asked to go to the Mars base, and Andrew Basiago talks about the Mars base. He was on the show a few years ago as well, talking about the Mars base. And so we know that these things exist. And the funny thing is, there have been a lot of clues lately about the Mars base. We are so snookered by the media. Everything that they write, if they say, "Oh, we found a bone on Mars, it's a bone." Well, NASA comes out and says, "Oh no, it's not a bone. It's just a fossilized rock, and it just looked like a bone." Well, NASA is controlled by the cabal, and they're part of the Project Paperclip, which was brought over here from Germany during the war. The elite cabal brought the German Nazis over and installed them in major corporations and at NASA. And the head of NASA, who passed away not too terribly long ago, Werner von Braun, was one of those scientists. They were brilliant people, and they're doing great things, but not for us.
Right.
None of this stuff is for us.
All,
and the Bush,
all part of a grand plan.
Yes. And as I see it, there are plans within plans within plans. And that's why we can't get too worried about all of this, because there are larger plans that are unfolding to expose all of this and to give us the choice and to allow us to take our sovereign freedom back, because it has been usurped. It has been tricked out of us. We have been tricked at the unconscious levels because we're not fully conscious. We don't have full consciousness, and that's one of the areas where the Archons work. It's a mind program. It's a mental construct. And so we have to watch our thoughts, and we have to be aware of our internal makeup. As you know, you write about this all the time. You write some wonderful articles on this stuff. And to get back to this matrix again, Carla Fox wrote about the false light system and how she had taken on the chakras, and she simply dissolved them. She went within, and she saw that they were not necessary, and so she devised a process to dissolve them. Well, I mentioned this in the Galactic History group on Facebook, and several people were just blown away by it. And one person tried it, and he described the whole process, and he said, and I did it myself, and I just literally went through each chakra, I dissolved it and took it back to nothing, and he said he feels absolutely wonderful and unified and more whole. I think that the idea that we're moving to a 12-strand DNA is a hoax to lure us into more division. Why would we want more chakras? Why would we want more abilities? We are going through a densification process to take us into a whole new creation. The 12-strand, we've already done that. So that's just to lure us back into a larger sandbox, and to tell you, well, you can do this with all your, with 12 strands, and you can do that, and look at all the powers you'll have. And it's just a ruse to get us to buy the bill of goods that we need more, and more is better. It's more fragmented, and it's more divided. We want unity. This is the time of unity consciousness, where we are reuniting and rejoining and becoming cohesive, less chaotic. So the chaos is creating this cohesion. It's like a moment where there's a near-death experience about to happen. And this is another important thing that I've heard you talk about as well, that the light is not necessarily a good thing. Why is it that all people that have near-death experiences, and I've had I've had the authors of Raymond Moody on my show, and the various people who are the experts on near-death experiences, and it convinced me that we do have something, a soul or an essence that goes on afterwards. However, why is it that there's always a guardian at the door that tells you, well, look what you could do. You could go back and you could do so much more. And they show you pictures, three-dimensional images of your life and the rest of it. And so okay, I'll go back. And and sometimes people come back with enhanced powers and abilities, and they do good work. But they never get out of the matrix.
Right.
They never leave. We never leave. So when do we get to graduate? When do we get out of these bodies? These bodies are limitations. We're not our bodies. And so that's one of the first things that we have to realize, is that we are not this world of appearances and illusions. We are not our bodies. We're not our sexual preferences or our desires or anything else. All of that's programming. It's all programming, and it's all run through the chakra system. They can program us they take us up in consciousness and be in a state of bliss, And that can be just as false as, running down to the adult bookstores and doing drugs. So, and none of it really matters, and then that creates a whole new program, the guilt program. Oh, I've got karma to burn off. Oh my God, when I get, and then we never face our demons because we're so afraid through the religions that we're going to go to hell. My own father said on his deathbed that I was going to go to hell because I was a homosexual. And it was the last words he said out of his mouth, and I turned my head away and I thought, just turn the other cheek. He was riddled with his own desires. He would have been, if he had been born today, he would have been an out gay man. As it was, he was bisexual, and then he got into religion and felt that, he was going to go to hell if he allowed himself to manifest from his authentic self. That there is no desire that's bad. That there is no judgment. That much I'm certain of. But there are things that can trap us in cycles, and this is the earthly maze, and it's been created by these beings, whoever they are, whether you think it's the 15 multidimensional beings or the Archons or the Anunnaki. The Anunnaki, according to the galactic history material, were tricked here by the 15 multidimensional beings. To me, that makes much more sense than Sitchin's writings that claim that the Anunnaki were gods. In relation to us, yes, they live essentially forever in relation to a person who lives 50, 60, 70, 80 years. So, of course, you've got multidimensional beings that have technology and that can keep themselves alive by using, various monatomic golds and various substances to trick the system. But, what if the clever ones, the demonic ones, if you want to put it that way, devised a system whereby they never have to face their own karma, and that would be creating another universe in which they never have to cross over. So they just keep creating places where they can run to in the astral and higher planes of various dimensions, and they can basically play around there for more or less for eternity. But I think that this is the end time when all of those games have to come to an end, that there's a larger source code, if you like, or source, if you want to call it that, and it is a very real force. It's the Force, in Star Wars, if you want to call it that, and it's invisible, and it has plans, and it allows for things to get out of hand, but there's always a cutoff date. Just like you have a stale date with milk and beer and the rest of it now, there's a cutoff date for the amount of time that you can suffer and play games of victimhood and domination and control. And this game is coming to an end. So we have to be on our toes, wide awake as possible, and, putting away the childish things that distract us. And everything is set up here to distract us. Literally everything. You can't walk out. I can't walk out of the house without seeing that there are, by the time I get to the first stop sign, well, first of all, why are there stop signs? We could go on about that. We have been conditioned, and now we're conditioned so much that we'll just do anything we're told. Whoever is in control, if a police officer stops us, we're trembling in terror, literally shaking in our boots. I mean, I know I do. And I don't know anybody that likes the feeling of those red lights going off behind their car, knowing that these people have some kind of authority. They think they have authority, but we are sovereign and free spirits that roam the universe, and we're multidimensional beings. We're originally 12-dimensional ourselves, and we're stuck in a 9-dimensional matrix, which has convinced us that we are 3-dimensional or less. I mean, how ludicrous is that? for the human race to be convinced that we are just, these little paltry beings. We're helpless. We're caught up in the politics. The governments run the world. Well, that's what they want us to think. And we really have to root out our belief systems and not fall for all of this authority, which is, when you pull it apart, it's nothing. It's a lot of scared creatures that are really frightened of us finding out the truth about them, that they are
terrified.
Powerless. Yes,
they
absolutely.
Are powerless.
We are the power. We are the power.
Yeah,
exactly. And because we're the creators, we are the real creators here. They get us to create for them. And so that's the secret of the Archons. They can't create anything of their own. They don't have the power to create. But through mind control and through belief systems and technological things, cell phones and chemtrails, and the list goes on and on and on. They can get us to create the world that they want us to create, which is a world of destruction and death. And that feeds into the higher dimensional beings. That's just food, just like the food of religion. Religious worship is food. All of that belief that takes us out, the worship of movie stars, all of that is energy. It's being harvested just like the Matrix trilogy. And I think I heard you starting out the show an hour late, thanks to me, sorry, on the Matrix trilogy. But the Matrix that's a documentary. We were lucky that the higher dimensional beings and the good galactics and the ones that are not trying to control us and hurt us into another galactic control system and trick us. There are numerous wonderful races that we have yet to reunite with, and I'm certain of that. We've come from there. We've been gods and goddesses in other universes and other star systems, and we will have the freedom to roam and to be and do whatever our hearts desire once again. And this is just the tail end of the worst nightmare you can imagine. And
it is.
I have to say we volunteered for this because we're the best. We're the best of the best. Anybody listening to this show is a master, is already an ascended master. And at your ascended level, your higher self level, you know this. And we're all talking at that ascended level. We're relating at those levels with each other. I'm doing it with you now. We're doing it with the audience. All of us together are in another place, laughing and listening and giving our lines to our meat puppets here so that we can validate one another and remember that we are the power control system. We are the creators, and that we are the ones that are in charge, and we need to remember that.
Well, Lance, I have to say that I have goosebumps all over because you and I are just so tied together energetically, and you've basically confirmed everything in 20 minutes of talking of what I talked about for an hour tonight. And you've also answered most all of my questions that I had for you, which you had no idea coming into this really what those were going to be. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm reading through my notes as you're talking, and I'm checking every one of them off. You are so right about being tied energetically on a different level, and that's why I thought it was so important to bring this information out, because it truly is almost unbelievable that we have had this web of illusion cast upon us in this reality, and how fascinating it is for us to wake up to it and to share and spread this information with other people when they truly think that we're out of our minds,
Right.
I have a question. Yeah, I have a question from Greg in the chat room.
Okay.
Do universal laws actually exist? And if yes, then why has this been allowed for so long?
Yes. Yes, but they're all relative. It's relative to the universe and the dimension that you're in. So if you're talking about 3 dimensions, you're under a lot more laws, and if you're unconscious, you're already under a number of laws that we're basically controlled when we're unconscious. The more conscious and awake we are, and there are levels to consciousness, there are approximately, according to Gurdjieff, there are 7 levels of consciousness that we can attain. And if at the 4th level, 1, 2, and 3 is normal man. The first 3 dimensions are waking state. The 4th level is a state of consciousness where we're more awake than we are asleep. And at the 5th level, we attain permanent consciousness and will. And then at 6th and 7th, we go on from there, and that relates to probably what we would consider to be ascended master level. But we're already there because we are there at the higher self level. So we're already that. It's just that we've forgotten. And we are starting to remember and to come from our higher self and speak to the other person's higher self. And when enough people do that, there will be no need for the meat puppet any longer, because we will all be in divine communication psychically and empathically. Now, to get back to your question. So, are there laws? Yes. So if you go out of the universe, the known universe, then that's a whole different set of situations. And there are places where there's complete freedom. There's complete freedom. I mean, you just create. You are the creator. So your creation is what is all there is. And so the more conscious we can become, the less laws we're under. And the less we have to relate to man's laws. I know religions even teach this, and I applaud them for recognizing that, God's laws, and that's a tricky one because I don't like to get into the God situation, but the higher laws are divine laws, are trump man-made laws any day. And of course, the Congress and the Senate are passing dozens of laws every day that we don't know about and never hear about that impact our freedom, and that's designed to be that way. And most of those people know that. They're just, stuck in their own little webs of, chauffeured limousines and bribes and, corruption and pedophilia and the rest of it. Not all of them, but, that's a lot of what's going on. The world, we are living in a dark universe. This is a black hole universe, according to Nassim Haramein. And if this is a black hole universe, what would the white hole universe look like?
Really? It's like the opposite, because everything is backwards.
Exactly. And don't we all see that everything here on Earth is upside down and backwards? They've taken all the sacred symbology and turned them around. They're being used by the dark side. The music industry is all run by the Illuminati. Everything is basically run by the Illuminati now. I mean, there's not much that you can find that isn't touched by the control paradigm, because it's operating outside of time. So they can set up the rulers of the world in advance, like the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Royals. That's a piece of cake. That's just the beginning of setting up the control system. I mean, that's just basic ABCs. So you set that up outside of time. Then you've got people that have all the money and power. Well, then you direct those people either through energy or thought transference or by intermediaries, and you basically are creating your own universe. And that's what's happening. We are being trapped in these multidimensional beings and negative ETs universe. And so, that all has to be recognized and brought down. But
right. And since we are the creator who has sent forth aspects of itself to experience, they have basically tricked the creator of this universe, of this experience.
Yes.
They've basically interfered with the creator of this universe, this experience.
Yes.
So the question.
Yes, and it's not nice to fool Mother Nature.
No. The question that I think a lot of people have right now is, what is the best thing that they can be doing to help the situation, or to keep themselves either is it to raise their vibration, to do clearings, and what do you do specifically to keep yourself going every day?
Well, there have been times when I've had to take drugs to keep going, so don't listen to what I do. It's a unique process, and each person has their own unique set of keys and that unlock your own authentic self. The most important thing, I think, for myself is to remain heart-centered and try to go to the core of your being, the still place within, and remain neutral in emotions. We have emotions, and they often have us, and they will take us for a ride, and that's where the Archons and the mind control and all that other stuff is designed to manipulate. So when we're finding ourselves reacting to situations or television shows or other people around us, that should be a red flag. Why am I having this reaction? What's getting triggered? What is coming up? And most of it is ego. We're basically a bunch of hot air balloons that are full of belief systems, and when somebody pokes a belief system, we get mad. So, and it's important not to release your energy through anger and violence, because it's okay to get mad. In fact, a little bit of self-righteous anger is fine. We have plenty of reason to get angry, but use it as fuel to fuel yourself to go within and to work on yourself. However that process unfolds, it might, it changes from moment to moment. In one moment, it might be just to get in touch with your artistic self, or to, love your child a little more, your inner child. We all have an inner child, our essence, which has been locked in the basement and has been kept away from us, and we need to go down there because of the wounding. Soul fragments break off when there's rape issues or abuse. Everybody's been probably smacked around by their parents, or they've been in a room where relatives have been doing terrible things, drunkenness, drugs, rape, incest. I mean, this is just common stuff. We should be able to talk about it openly and not have any fear. Because when the more you stuff that down, those soul fragments need to be retrieved. I just had a guest on my show, Sandra Ingerman, who wrote the book Soul Retrieval, and she does a lot of work on shamanic teaching. She's a shamanic teacher. And if there, for instance, there was a moment where we were abused as a child, the soul or the essence leaves the body. Okay, it goes somewhere, and there's a cave of lost children where they're in the dark, and your soul essence may go somewhere else. It may go to a beach. It may go someplace wherever it feels like it's going to be safe. It breaks off before if the abuse is going on, and some people are abused for years and years and years. I have a very close friend who was abused by her grandfather for 10 or 12 years, and she couldn't tell her parents. I mean, that created PTSD, it created alcoholism and a multitude of problems. She has worked through them, and now she's working on soul retrieval, retrieving those fragments that were left behind in those moments of abuse, when you black out or your essence leaves, because when you're close to death or a frightening situation, your little soul essence leaves the body, and we leave those all over the place. And so that's how we become fragmented, and that's how we get controlled, because then we're victims and we don't have our whole soul essence within us. So part of the process is being totally truthful with yourself. You cannot lie to yourself. I know people justify lying and manipulating to each other. And, if you have to do that, you got to know that that is not the way to evolve. That we have to give up our inauthentic selves and the phoniness of our lives and just tell the truth. We need to move into our authentic selves, which is that little child, that essence within, and then you be the parent to yourself and decide, well, what would you like to do today, honey? I love you so much. I love myself. We must love ourselves. That is, if you have a dog or a cat or any kind of a child, we give more love to a stray cat than we will give to ourselves. We have to remember to give ourselves the love that we're giving to other people. And some people get so focused on helping other people, and it's a distraction because we don't want to do the inner work of forgiving ourselves for what we perceive to be horrendous wrongs and that have created all of these insecurities. And most likely it's just a momentary decision that occurred in childhood where we decided we're not worth it or we're worthless. And if you're being abused, why wouldn't we think we're worthless? Because we're being treated as if we're, expendable. And that is how society and the controllers treat us, and that is how they keep us in submission. So we need to break out of that and realize, hey, I'm the powerful one here. I don't care what happened to me as a child. I forgive myself. I forgive the people who did it. I release those aspects of my anger and my fear and frustration, and I pull that soul essence back into myself, and I love myself. We simply must love ourselves. That is the number one rule, and move into that authentic space where we're not lying to ourselves. If you do something and we screw up, just admit it. Well, shit, I stumbled and fell. I'm responsible for it. Nobody made me do it. Nobody made me drink that, 12-pack of beer or get drunk and total my car or whatever the deal is. It doesn't matter. It's all just stuff. And so we have to forgive ourselves, and the sooner the better. The sooner, if you have a drinking or drug problem and you slip, forgive yourself. Hey, I did it. I'm responsible for it. I felt terrible. We'll do better the next time. I'm human. I'm perfect in my imperfections. Just remember that. We're perfect in our imperfections, and we are the gods and creators within. And get in touch with that higher self and communicate with that higher self constantly. That is you. That is the higher self is you. That is the God within. And you are that. And more. And much more. We don't even know yet because we have not been restored to full consciousness. And that is something that takes a lot of work and a lot of effort to shift our vibration and our consciousness. But there's simple ways. My friend Anelia Benz, basically teaches, be love, light, joy. And she has a lot of processes that she teaches people how to get through the fear process. That's important to process our fears. That's a huge area of control. Look at all the false flag events that are going on, and people are seeing through it. Just about everything on the planet now is a false flag, including the weather. The drought in California is designed by HAARP to destroy the food crops so that we will be living in a state of panic and fear, instinctive fear of our lives? Well, for one thing, it's just the body that doesn't go on. And in this shift of the ages, the body does go on. So we're looking at the possibility of taking our bodies with us and never having to drop them again. We could walk off into the sunset with our bodies and take our bodies with us. And I believe that that's what this shift is about, that consciousness and spirit is in being infused into matter, and that matter will rise up and meet spirit, and that we will be able to transform our bodies. You know, it's all light and spirit. And so once we're in a completely different place in the galaxy. NASA doesn't know where we are because it's like a soup out there. They can't navigate. And for once they admit that they're stymied, although I don't believe that either. I don't believe much of anything that comes out of that agency because it's a front for the breakaway civilization that has all the technology. The real technology are the UFOs and the ships that our own government and military have developed with the corporations. There's a laundry list of corporations. You can Google this stuff and research it and find out just who's behind it. But the obvious ones are the first ones to look at. You know, the defense industry. They have clearance that's far above the President of the United States. The President only gets up to about 32 or 33, I think, and that's Masonic terms. And then the corporations tell the President and the Chief of Staff and all these big starred people, well, you don't have a need to know. So they're running the show. And they don't let the government know. They only let them know what they need to know and nothing more. Everything is about disinformation and compartmentalization. All of the three-letter agencies are in havoc right now because they don't know who's doing what to who and who has set up an alternate black ops to counter a black ops that they've already got going, and they don't know who they're fighting. They don't
it's a three-ring circus out there.
It's a three-ring circus, and ISIS is an American creation. That's a corporation that comes out of Washington, and for a while it was posted on the internet, and then now I can't find it. But ISIS is American intelligence for sale, and so all of these things we have to question everything, question authority.
Go.
And dig into stuff, and you know, as much as they can control the information flow, you can find out things. Sometimes just for a brief moment they're on, and then they're off. If I knew how much was removed from the internet, there's stuff there that used to be from the old Spirit Web days, and you know, you used to be able to dig into stuff and really find out about things, and now it's not so easy. You can still find out a few things. But artificial intelligence is merging with Google. They're taking over the artificial intelligence that's used by the multidimensional beings, whoever you want to call them, has set up Google to be the future artificial intelligence which controls humanity. So it's part of the whole system. And it's like the daughter. Yeah, exactly.
Where they can just suck your consciousness right out of you by staring into the computer, or your cell phone for that matter, or a video game.
The elite are doing it already. They're putting their consciousness into enhanced containers because the ETs have taught them how to do it. And they have underground laboratories where they do this and they experiment. All of this stuff has been going on for decades and perhaps centuries. So the breakaway civilization has all of this stuff. They're able to go the time travel. They have bases on Mars and probably most of the planets. I'm not certain about Saturn because Saturn is controlled by a dark force, and the rings are created for some kind of technological purpose. There are other people who know more about this than I do, but I do know that
I believe it's part of the computer program that's running here on the planet.
Well, look at the pentagon shape on the Saturn. Look at the pentagon shape on Earth. Look at the Pentagon shape on Mars. These are not accidents. And it's no accident that the pyramids point to Sirius.
And Orion.
And Orion, yes. Yeah, that's right. And Orion. So, I mean, all of these things, and these people are going to be coming around not in the not-too-distant future when they get us sucker punched up enough and get the planet torn up to the point where we'll just accept anything that comes, out of the skies and fall to our knees and worship the next fucking thing.
I talked about that earlier. Yeah, big warning.
Yeah, we've got to stop worshiping things outside ourselves. Start worshiping yourself. Worship the ground you walk on. You treat it as sacred territory, each step, because you're the creator and you're the God. It's not out there. And all of the people that are waiting for Jesus or some being or the avatars to return and run things are going to find that that's what they'll get. They're going to come and run things and tell you what to do.
Yeah, they'll tell you. They'll tell you what to do. We're so on the same page. It's just amazing. It's almost like you're saying everything, that I said earlier. So thank you so much for being so, my soul brother. We're just so tied in. I have a question from the chat room.
Okay.
Does the higher self exist outside of the matrix?
Yes.
And I think they're asking this because, like, in linear terms, we're trying to figure out, just how encompassing this matrix, this false matrix, or this control matrix is. And the question goes further: how does one connect to the higher self and exit the matrix? Is this something that we can do individually and exit that way, or is this something where everybody's going to have to try to do this at one time together, or what?
This is a real simple answer. Yes, yes, and yes. The higher self exists outside the matrix, and we're in constant communication with it. We are that. We've just identified with the lower self. So all you have to do is shift your awareness to your higher self, and you're out of the matrix. You see how that works? It's like it's like one of those puzzles that when you look at it one way, you see a box, and then you look at it the other way, and it's a balloon or something. Well, it's the same thing. It's a trick of the mind, and we've been tricked into believing that we're our bodies, we're our jobs. I've got a relationship. So all of that stuff you have to detach from. Basically, Buddha kind of said it. Live a life of non-attachment. So when you're not attached, who are you? You are your higher self. It's the silent space within. It is the field in which matter exists. So one of the little tricks I use sometimes is, how matter, walls and cars and everything is created of matter that's more densely compacted together. Well, and so now imagine the galaxies around us and how vast they are, and the galaxies outside the galaxies, and it goes on and on and on, and there are all these things. Okay, now do a flip. Imagine the space that all of that matter is in. That is who you are. You are the space that matter exists within. So, you're not your body. If you're looking at your computer, you're the air between that. We're in a sea of living life, prana, chi, and it's been kept from us because they don't want us to be who we are. And so it's been minimized and taken out as much as possible. But all you have to do is just imagine that you're the space between all atoms and molecules, and that's a trick I use to shift outside of matter. Now the matrix is 9-dimensional, and someone pointed out something to me that makes sense. Barbara Hand Clow wrote a book, The Alchemy of 9 Dimensions, and I was absolutely stunned by the idea that we could tap into 9 dimensions simultaneously. That we're in. Basically, she has a diagram that shows how 4D is a canopy, and then the other dimensions feed into it, and ideally it's supposed to be set up as an experience where we can experience all of these higher dimensions and pull from the polarities without duality, without experiencing duality. Well, the interlopers have fucked it up, and so we don't get the higher dimensions. But the 9 dimensions also describe the matrix that we're in. It's a 9-dimensional, I believe it's a 9-dimensional matrix, and that we're already outside of it. Our higher selves are outside of it. So we're kind of, that's why they say to create an observing eye or an observer within. So if you want to connect to the master or the higher self, you create a state of self-observation where you're always observing yourself objectively without comment or words. Now, the mind will fill in things. Mind is endlessly chattering. You've got to shut off the mind or just ignore it. Thank it for sharing and then let the thought out the other side. Move into the heart space, the core self where the divine spark resides. And then actually the divine spark is in everything. So there's nothing that doesn't have it. But we are, if you do the flip-flop, we are the space between in which matter is suspended and molded. And these bodies are just vehicles. So refresh me again with a question. What was was there a part of that question that I'm not at? I feel like I got off on a tangent.
Well, no, you did great. You did great. But the another part of the question is, though, they want to know further if we, I know we're all hanging on here. You know, we're trying to hang on to our physical bodies because this is the first time we're going to be taking our physical bodies with us.
Yes.
But so the question is, can that be done in the physical, or do we have to wait? And I think you've answered most of that in that, you know, no, we don't have to wait as far as getting your consciousness rejoined with your multidimensional self, because we exist multidimensionally and eternally. But as far as like how do we bring that down into our physical body while we're holding on and we're waiting in this extreme polarity existence, is this something that is going to happen on an individual basis? Is this something that you know, the Earth is going to split into vibrationally into a higher vibrational Earth and a lower vibrational Earth, or what is your take on how this is physically going to happen with us?
Well, I have theories about it. I don't have any facts, but I have gut feelings.
We'll find out, won't we?
Yeah, well, yes. And part of this, part of what I'm seeing is that some people here have incarnated in order to be the first ones that walk out of the matrix and out of the dimensional grids that have been established as control systems, and we will walk back in with our bodies, and we will be like glowing, you know, with energy. And we will walk into no time, because we're already in no time, but we will walk off out of 3D and back in transformed. So I think that people will be doing that individually at first, and then it's quite possible that there will be, and that will be kept quiet, because the control system that's the last thing they want us to know about is any kind of spiritual ascension. And that's why the religions put a damper on everything. They keep us at a lower rate of vibration, because anytime you're looking outside yourself to an intermediary, you already have given your power away. You're already in the matrix. So, but there are people who can, you know, hold their own power and have a religion. So it's not, you know, anything is possible. It's just not as easy. If you have belief systems that the more belief systems you have, the more you're in the web. You know, it's like a spider web. So I think that there will be moments that will be coming where we will be shown several paths, and one will be the path of technology and a galactic connection. It could be that the breakaway civilization will open up, and that will be part of the galactic control to come in, the galactic federations and confederations. You know, there are a lot of very conservative galactic groups that would love to come in here and take us over, and they're all fighting over it. They want to, and so, you know, they may use the breakaway civilization as a tool and technology as a tool to say, well, we are the ones. So I think that the managers here that are have their own plans are going to be upstaged several times before this all gets clear, and we're going to see people, emissaries coming from other planetary systems, and we're going to have to really get our thinking caps on and be able to sense tools. To sense the truth. Our truthometer and our bullshitometer have to be working at 100,000%. Because if you can't tell the truth of things that are going on around you, you're going to be friggin' lost.
Yeah, I talked about that earlier too, for sure.
Oh, it's so dangerous, and we're all programmed. We have implants, basically.
We all
to fall to our knees.
Pretty much do. Yeah.
If angel shows up, and that whole angel thing, people believe in, and I'm not trying to eliminate people's beliefs, but there's a lot of false light stuff going on with that as well. Angels are not all that.
Right. That's true. It's absolutely true, and I'm so with you here. I've always felt there's been so many people that have been holding on for so long, and I know that you're going to be one that's going to walk into that higher consciousness and transform your body and heal everything that you're carrying with you, and come back.
I came here to do that.
Yeah,
I came here to do that, and
I
don't know when it'll happen. But I've seen it. I've already seen it, and I was told that it would happen. And I live above the American River in a canyon, and I've seen the other dimensions where there's a light. There's light. When Christ walked on water, all he was doing was using his light body to walk where he could see there was light. So you just step where the lights are, and it's just a matter of seeing them, and that's not a vast jump for us. When he said, and I'm not sure who he was, but when he said you'll do this and much and more,
right?
Believe me, we will do that much and more. And so the organic path is going to be one that is opening up when we align with the spirits of nature and the shamanic vision. And it doesn't have to be like old times and indigenous tribes have done it, but, that's a good model. It's a template. We'll be creating new templates that go far beyond the shamanic ways that connect to spirit of all things. But in the meantime, that's pretty much the best shot we have at doing it is communing with nature and connecting to the nature spirits, the elementals. Even they have been compromised. The dark side has, compromised them as well, and I don't think they're very happy about it. So when this uprising occurs and nature, in combination with Gaia Sophia, the essence or the soul of the planet, begin to manifest in our real world and in ourselves, we're going to feel it, because it's going to be so powerful that we can't miss it, because our heartbeats are all synchronized. Heart to heart to heart with the Earth's heart, with the galactic heart, and when all those pulses begin to start working together and ba-boom, ba-boom, it's going to be a wave of energy that is undeniably powerful, that just literally transforms everything. And people are talking, scientists are talking about this wave of energy that's come from some kind of explosion in the universe, in another universe, that's headed our way. And there's a writer that wrote The Pillars of Celestial, what is it? I can't remember the name of the book, but it pulls all the world's religions together and talks about this age when these two pillars of energy arrive on the planet and literally transform everything. And that's basically, in the meantime, my advice would be have fun, enjoy your life, and just don't pay too much attention to the Matrix, because it's going to sputter and it's going to throw things out at us that are disturbing. And I fall into the same thing. I start going down the rabbit hole, and before you know it, a couple of hours have been spent, and I'm pointing out false flags and this and that and the other thing, and thinking I'm doing something. Well, I'm just as enslaved doing that,
Exactly.
In the control system on the computer. I could walk outside and take my shoes and socks off and earth and discharge the negative ions into the earth and do a little sun gazing at dusk or at dawn or both, and probably get more energy out of that than I would out of 24 hours a day, plugging away at mind stuff that isn't really going to change anything.
No, once you recognize it, once you see it for what it is, then you can know what not to give your energy to at this time and start thinking about yourself. And like you said, connect with nature, stay heart-centered, and just try to do things that you enjoy, that you love. And, we do have to have a balance in our life about how we can put information out there to help people, but on the other hand, not to be obsessed with spending, all of our time trying to service others, because we're going to miss out on servicing ourselves, which is really what we need to focus on as well.
Exactly.
So we're getting to the end of our show here. Oh. So go ahead and finish up with that.
Well, I was going to say, when you're talking to your higher self and you start to recognize the voices, the authentic voice that's coming back, it's a matter of discerning your inner voices. So you can tell after a while what is coming from.
I was talking about that earlier too, Lance. This is incredible. This is incredible. Well, you should really go back and listen to the recording. Incredible.
I will. I love to hear what you have to say.
If someone is actually speaking to you in your head, that is not your higher self.
Exactly.
Your higher self will speak to you telepathically and through your heart center and drop packets of information and thought into your mind.
Yes, and it's always beneficial, and it's always uplifting and positive. It's never never negative or constructive, and it's never demeaning.
They don't ever tell you what to do.
No, never. Yeah. So, and sometimes it's just an impulse. I get mine in the solar plexus area. And that's where it's just a gut feeling. And I've always envied people who have, clairaudience and clairvisual and clair this and clair that. But I get it in my gut, and it's just a feeling, and it's always been that way. But if you use it and listen to it and follow it, it's like developing a muscle. It's just like going to the gym and strengthening your psychic skills. Wherever you find that ability in yourself, follow it and listen to it. And when it says, I wouldn't go right, when you get a feeling of you're driving and you say, well, I wouldn't do that if I were you, and you help. And then your mind says, oh, that's a bunch of bullshit. And you turn right, and then you hit a dog or something, and it's like, I told you so. That's the voice that, is one of your guides that's coming through, or, we have so much help.
I feel like that a lot of our guides are actually other lives of ours.
Of ourselves.
Right.
Yeah,
well, we're all connected and we're all one anyway. We're all part of Creator, but you know what I mean, from our oversoul that had, a past life, and we're merging together, as bringing those lives together in this one now moment. Yeah.
We're reuniting within, and our parallel lives are reuniting within, and our essences and our soul energy is reuniting within. So anything that fragments and divides, you want to avoid. It's simple as that. Anything that unites and creates a feeling of harmony is something that probably is a positive thing. So it's really simple. Just boil it down to real simple things. Does this food have artificial coloring and GMOs and this? Yes. Well, I think I'll pass on that today. I'll have some organic spinach. And stuff like that. Number one importance, don't drink tap water. Whatever you do, there's fluoride in that, and I've been following Andrew Norton Weber's work for a while, and I've been drinking distilled water for several years, and it clears out the pineal. Even if the pineal is a control gland, we can use it. We can take it back. If anything that's within us, if it's used in the negative, we have the ability to take that back and use it. All you have to do is just say, no, that's mine. It's not yours, that's mine.
Sometimes it's really simple as that.
It is as simple as that, a thought.
Reprogramming your brain with a thought.
That's it. I asked Anelia one time, Anelia Benz, about, she had a little lunch thing in Sacramento, and I said, well, Carla Fox is talking about, eliminating the chakras and dissolving them. She says they're a control system and you don't need them. And George basically was saying the same thing, George Kavaslis. And so I said, well, what about this? She said, well, I don't have any. She said, I've never had chakras. And she said she found out when she went to a psychic fair, and the woman was trying to read her chakras.
Oh.
And she was getting this confused look. She says, I can't find your chakras. I don't know what's going on. I've never seen anything like that. And Anelia looked within and saw that she didn't have any, and so she created them on the spot just so that this woman could give her a reading. And she did. Wow. She said, this, blah, blah, blah. And she said, these are the most beautiful chakras I have ever seen in my life. And Anelia said she kept them around for a while because they were really pretty, but then she said she didn't need them, so she just dissolved them back into unity. So, if she really did come from Source, as I believe she has, and we all come from Source, really, we're all from Source, then we don't need these extra things. And you can play with it. You can take your chakras back. You can recreate them. You can eliminate them. You can do anything you want, just as long as you don't hurt yourself or anyone else.
Or anyone else, exactly.
Anyone else. First, do no harm.
Well, Lance, you have a number of wonderful interviews on your YouTube channel, Zany Mystic Radio, and you also have your own show called A Fireside Chat on Saturdays at 7 p.m. Pacific on BBS Radio Station number 1. And I just can't tell you how pleased I am that you joined me tonight and that you confirmed all of the things that I'm trying to tell our listeners tonight. And since my co-host was unable to join us, Larry, he wasn't able to call in. He tried over and over again. I'll let you stay on the line with me here while I give the rest of our public services. And that is that we have a new N5D article that just got posted or is about to be posted, and it's written by Greg Prescott, and it's called How the Soul Essence of DNA Defines Our Physical Presence. And we have next week joining us is Chris Hales. We will ask Chris to share more about his self-realization journey and clearing techniques. I met Chris at the N5D Cosmic Awakening Conference last year in Sarasota, Florida, and coincidentally, that's where I met Greg, my sweetie. And so I'm really looking forward to revisiting what has happened in Chris's life since then. So I appreciate you so much, Lance. And did I get all of your places where people can find your material right?
Yes, you did, and I'm on Facebook as Lance White, and I have a group there that I kind of inherited called the Galactic History Discussion Group, and I posted 11 or more of the transcripts from the Andrew Bartzis videos, and it's basically a group for people who have seen the videos and just are fascinated by the material. It has endless implications and want to talk about it. I also have a book that I wrote in 2007 called Tales of a Zany Mystic, and it's available on Amazon. I really don't care if it sells or not because the IRS is confiscating the proceeds. But if you want to know more about me, you can find out more about my wacky adventures, that you probably can guess are pretty crazy and zany. And the book is also on Kindle, and I think it's free to download. So in any case, it's pretty cheap. So you can find out more about me and my life there, and it's kind of a wacky, zany book. It's about my life.
Well, and I'm sure it's very interesting, and it's just been a very huge amount of exact information that I would have given, and I totally agree with you, and I resonate with you, and I love you so much, Lance. I really can't wait to be in your energy again physically. Hopefully one day we can come to California and visit you.
And, that'd be wonderful.
Yes.
When I met you and Greg at Los Angeles, I just felt like I instantly knew you. We were like old soul pals, like a sister and brother. I mean, it was amazing. And I so resonated to your energy and to what you were saying, and I still do. And you and Greg are just wonderful folks. I love you both dearly. So I love what you're doing too. We need more. Well, no, we don't need more of anything. Everything's perfect, just like it is.
Everything's just fine the way it is.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for everything you do as well, and getting the word out. And you were just so beautiful in your summary of everything. And thank you for saving my show tonight.
Thank you for forgiving me for being late.
Oh, it's no big deal, and I look forward to your show on Saturday night. And with that, I'm going to say good night.
Good night.